The story is about my father. Last year, my dad was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called Guillain-Barré disease, or GBS. And it's a very, very rare autoimmune disease which affects 1 in a million people in India. The immune system starts attacking the myelin sheath around your nerves, so there is no conduction between the nerve cells. So the messages from the body is not reaching the brain. It has a paralytic symptom, so the body starts to get into paralysis. It starts with your feet and then it goes up, and then eventually if the diaphragm is affected, then it affects your breathing, so the person cannot breathe anymore, and eventually death. Because it was a very rare disease, it was not diagnosed for a bit, but then we were very lucky that we took him to a place where his condition was diagnosed immediately, and then he was given the treatment. And it was a very standard treatment of IgIV, so basically intravenous immunoglobulins. So a healthy person's immunoglobulins are injected into the patient, and then it helps regulate the immune system. So my father had to spend 21 days in intensive care before he was discharged. And when he left, the only medication that was prescribed for him was physiotherapy. There was nothing else. So he was only told to do physiotherapy so that his muscles could regain the vitality and start functioning again. When he left, the doctor said it's going to take 24 to 36 months to regain full mobility of his body. I came home to help my parents with his rehabilitation. And I told him, Dad, this is what the doctor says, 24 to 36 months. Let's set another target, because there are always exceptions. So our target is, when I leave home after you get well, you're going to come and see me at the airport. That's our new target, and we're going to work towards it. And then he said, you're doing all of these things and you meditate and everything, help me. And at that time, I had just done one progressive course at that time, and I hadn't even done a week long until that. Okay, I was just doing the meditations, and I was rereading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And then I thought, why not use the concepts that I'm learning in this book and see if this works, real life. And then I asked my dad, I want your permission to be your coach. Because if you know anything about coaching family members, it can be an excruciating process. So he said, he was so desperate, he said, I'll do anything you tell me. We had this routine. Every day in the morning, we would have tea together, and then I would ask him to write down how he was thinking and how he was feeling. I got him into journaling, and he wrote down. And every single day, he would break down when he would write that. And then I would ask him, write down what are the thoughts you want to think, what are the feelings you want to feel. Write it down with as much clarity as you can. And he would write that down, and it would break down all over again. And it was a very, very difficult thing for me, because I had to assume the role of a coach and not of a daughter, and not break down in front of him. And that was a different level of overcoming that I had to do in that whole process. And we did this day in and day out. And I explained to him what it means to overcome his environment. His environment is going to remind him all the time that he was sick, that he's incapable, that he is not able to do things that he was used to do. It's going to always remind him it's going to take a long time to recover. He has to overcome time, and he has to overcome his body, because his body is not able to do everything. So I explained the concepts to him, and I was watching him like a hawk. What is he doing? How is he thinking? And the moment he would slip into that victim mode and start telling that old story, I would stop him. Dad, no. That's not the story we want to tell. What's our new story? That you are going to be perfectly okay, and you're going to go and see me off at the airport when I leave. That's our new story. It was a very frustrating process. But we kept going. And within 2-3 weeks, he already started seeing changes in his body. So he would wait for me to wake up to show me how far he could lift his hands. And next day, he would take like 10 more steps. He would walk 10 more steps on his own. And then the week later, he would take 5 steps like on the terrace on his own. So we saw consistent progress with him just by overcoming the environment, body, and time. And the more he saw progress, the more he started believing in his future story, not in his past. My dad recovered complete mobility of his entire body within 3 months. And he did come to see me at the airport when I left. My mom's life changed, my life changed, my brother's life changed, so many people's life changed because I decided to treat this as an experiment and use this work. And I was so inspired by the results that I saw with my dad that I thought, I need to do this more properly. I want to learn how to do this, deliver this information properly. And that's when I decided that I wanted to be an NCS consultant. And this year in July, I signed up for the NCS training, the Train the Trainer event. And I was in Denver and I got trained as an NCS consultant. So I'm on my pathway to license. So I'm looking forward to becoming a licensed NCS in January next year and continue the process of changing lives, inspiring people with my story, my dad's story. By the way, my dad is in the best shape of his life after all of this. And I just want to express how grateful I am. It's a very funny story. I got attracted to Dr. Joe's work primarily because of his articulation skills. The way he was explaining everything, the way he was explaining all these difficult concepts about quantum physics and neuroscience and everything, the ease with which he was explaining everything, it grabbed my attention. I was like, I want to be able to do that. You know, it was so compelling. And then I really started listening to what he's saying, and then I was just hooked. And I kept listening to his lectures, his podcasts, his series on Gaia called Rewired. I have watched it probably 150, 200 times, just because the entire content was so compelling. And then I was like, just pure curiosity. What is it? Like the way he talks about it, it sparked something, some level of curiosity inside of me. And I was like, I want to try this. I want to see what happens. And I started doing his meditations. And I remember 7 weeks into doing his meditations, I had my first mystical experience. I had this remote viewing experience where I was in a completely different place, and I was like an outer conscious, like observing, like looking down on everything that was happening. It was, like he says, the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling that I had. And then I was hooked. I was like, I want more. I want to learn more. I want to do more. And since then, I have been consistently doing all the meditations almost every day. I've been journaling, and I have transformed my health. I have transformed my professional life. I have gotten opportunities that I couldn't have even thought about. All I was doing is, like he says, set an intention and back it up with action. Match your actions equal to your intentions. Match your behavior equal to your thoughts. And that's exactly what I was doing. And everything around me in my outer environment was arranging itself on its own. The moment you get a taste of what that synchronicity feels like, you want more. And I just wanted more. And I kept going to this point where I was able to use this information to actually transform the life of a loved one in my own family. And now it's next level. I'm just chasing the unknown now. That's my goal.